So we did some systematic studies of setting the PBS layer and also the plasma power, so the power what we put in our discharge, to be at the safety level. So what we see here is the phase contrast light microscopy images and confocal laser scanning microscopy. So we use the propybeam iodide staining. So in red we see the dead cells. This is the control. And what we see that, so if we put 200 microliter of PBS, so 1 millimeter layer of PBS, if we use low plasma power and short treatment, so this is 5 seconds of treatment, then the cells are still okay. If we use higher powers, so the species can be more energetic and longer treatment times, then we can harm the cells. And the same if we put a bit more PBS, but we increase the power again, the cells die. It is more safe if we put a bit more PBS, and then even if we increase the power of the plasma, so the species are more energetic that react with the cells, and we use longer treatment times, the cells are still okay. So in this way we set our conditions where we can start looking around if what kind of effect will have the plasma on the cells. First of all, we check the proliferation, and this has been checked with the Excelligence microelectronics biosensor, which has a 96 well plate. So these are smaller plates than the 24 one, so the wells are smaller, but also here the conditions are set that the distance from the PBS layer will be the same. And what we see, we treated the cells both in PBS and also in the cell medium. The control is the full blue line. And this is the elapsed time we check the evolution of the cells, the cell index showing the proliferation of the cells. What we see that at the beginning we have plasma conditions which speed up the proliferation of the cells, but then it slows down. So this gives the idea that, of course, these cells were treated only once and checked for 140 hours. So kept there for days. So this gives the idea that maybe after a certain time we need to retreat them. So that's what happened also usually with the treatments, you need to retreat. So if we get an effect at the beginning that if we retreat, we may really speed up the effect also on the longer term. Yes?
Everybody knows that living organisms has this recovery.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
If you told that it's seconds or it's very short, so I think it's obvious that some recovery process will work if you have such a short.
Well, I think we got to the conclusion that the plasma may give just a small stress. So the best is if we give to the cells a small stress. So we give them this signal that you need to recover. Well, not recover, but you need to speed up a bit. No? So it's because what we got the idea that if you treat for a long time with a lot of energy, that doesn't really help. What helps is short treatments, so small stresses. So it's like just kicking someone and telling them that you should do something.
So this biosensor measures the cell index?
Yes.
And how long does it take to give you the indication? Is it real time or?
It's real time. Well, actually this here the zero means it's not when we put it back, but when they recovered. So this zero, it's not when we put it back, because then you have, like it's coming, it's dropping, and then it recovers. If you meant the recovering, is this one. So the 0 is when they started to recover, because otherwise what you see is they really drop a lot. So that phase it's cut it out. So it's real time. We put them in this biosensor, and then we see that the cells were really stressed, so they are a bit like hibernating. No, it's not doing anything. Their proliferation went back. They are not doing anything for a while. Then they start recovering, and this 0 is when you see them growing again. So after they start growing, then what you see that the treated one starts growing faster than the untreated one. What you see also, the difference is if you treat it in PBS and in cell medium. And this is because what plasma does is the plasma reacts with the liquid. And in the liquid you start creating all kinds of species, OH, for example. And as the cell medium is a more complex one than the PBS, you start creating more radicals. And these radicals get in contact with the cells. And the radicals we create in the cell medium can affect more the cells than in the PBS. So to treat the cells in cell medium, it's not really a good idea, because then you don't really get good conclusions, because it's so complex, the whole chemistry, that you really get lost. And what we also see that if we start treating at much higher power, or not much higher but higher power, then we have a negative effect on the cells. So the amount of species, the energetic species that reach the cells, it's already not good for the cells. So basically what is good to treat at lower powers and for short time. So that's what I wanted to say, that the cells don't really want to have them too much, but they need a bit of stress, and that helps. So this was the proliferation, and the second thing what we checked is if we make this wound model. So we have a cell culture which we scratch. Here we have a 4 mm scratch, and what we check is if this scratch is going to close faster than on the untreated. And here what I meant, that the cells are behaving not like the physical system, so you see the errors, and time to time going not in the direction you would expect. So what we see here is the scratch closing, so the reduction of the width of the scratch as a function of the power we used for the plasma. We have different treatment times, and after 15 hours, 24 hours, 38 hours, and 48 hours. And what we see that the biological system really needs so it's a long response time. So it doesn't, for the real response, you need to wait a lot. Because if you start judging your system just after a short time, you get to the wrong conclusion. You get different conclusions than if you leave your system to accommodate and let the processes to go. So what we see that those conditions which looked good after 15 hours, at 48 hours it's not those conditions which will be helpful for our treatments. So basically after 48 hours what we see that the best is the lowest power we treated and the shortest treatment time. And then we see that, so this is the control, and we see that these are the conditions which are above the control, so they close the scratch faster. So my conclusion is really that the cells need just more stress, so not long treatment. And if we repeat these short treatments, we all the time give them small stress, then they will recover faster. This is the same scratch reduction, width reduction as a function of the treatment time for 2 powers used. And here what we see that it's not really behaving well. For the physical system, I would say that this will behave so monotonously, but for this biological system, we see like a chaotic behavior. Like for the short treatment time, we have a positive effect, then we have a negative effect.
It's not chaotic because it's reproducing all the
Yeah,
others.
yeah, that's why we started to think that there's something must happen, because so this behavior it keeps for the both treatment conditions and also with time. So this is the elapsed time. After 15 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, we get the same shape. And we did not understand why the 5-second treatment is positive, the 10 and 15 second it's already negative, and then it goes back. So then what happened, we were thinking that something needs to happen in our treatment procedure. And actually what happens that when we treated the cells, we had for 1 power 2 plates to treat. And we changed the cell medium to PBS in both plates, and we started to treat in this order: 5 seconds, 7 seconds, 20, 25 seconds, and we put these times very cleverly in order that the cells to spend the same time on both plates, so not to keep them too much on the atmosphere. So let's say the 2 plates will take the same amount of time. So on the first plate we treated the 5 seconds, 7, 20, 25, on the second plate the 10, 15, 30. So first we went like this treatment. And basically what we see here is the 5, 7, 20, 25, the 10, 15 and 30. So what happened that we treated these ones, we kept in the treated liquid, and then we treated these ones, and then we changed to the cell medium again together. So the first plate, the cells stayed much longer in the treated PBS than the second ones. And we see here, this is the time the cells stayed in the treated liquid. So we treat together the cells with the liquid, so everything gets the plasma. So these ones stayed 1000 seconds, these ones stayed only 300 seconds, and so on. Then what we did, that we treated separated the plates. Of course, we could not do with this protocol to have all the cells at the same time, because we need to treat somehow one after the other. But now we diminish those big gaps, and what we see that the 10 and 15 comes up. So this gives further troubles, because the effect is much more complex than we think. So it's not only the plasma species getting in contact with the cells, so it's not only the oxygen species or whatever doing oxidative effect to the cells, but also the chemistry of the liquid. So the liquid gets in contact with plasma, then we dissociate, then we create OH, H2O2 and different radicals in the liquid, which also get in contact with the cells. And it also matters how long the cells get in contact with this treated liquid. So if we want to translate this to the real wound treatment, it's pretty difficult, because of course the wound is also not dry, so you have some liquid on the top, but maybe it's not enough, that natural wetness. You still need to put some gel or something to protect more the cells, and the chemistry is really complex, so you need many people thinking on this, what kind of effects you will have. But definitely you can have some positive effect.
For example, with X-ray radiation, it was known already that it has, for example, with a let's say appropriate intensity, you can actually induce, for example, wound healing with a low-level X-ray, which actually doing again some radicals or inducing radicals. The radicals can diffuse to the cells. So here something same happens.
It's the
Means
same
that
happen.
you do your illumination of the liquid surface, you inject some radicals
Yeah,
into
it's
the
the
liquid,
oxidative radicals.
which with a much lower diffusion rate reaches the cells, and what you getting depends on the diffusion rates. What you have in the dependent on the height of the
it's
liquid.
also the diffusion
So-
rate, and it's also the amount of species you create in the.
Yeah, because unto a certain level, you can actually stress the cells, how you said. That's actually induce some positive biological effects,
Yeah,
it's true, but after you're above that certain level threshold, you actually start to kill the cells.
Yeah, it's the question of getting to find those levels which are still in the stressing level, and after that, well, to set those levels where it can be still a positive effect, not to go above those. And it's really the question of seconds.
But how do you explain the previous slide, that periodicity of 10 seconds?
Well, it was not the question of 10 seconds, it's the question of, you see, we divided the plate in a strange way, like we treated the 5 seconds, 7, the 20 and 25, and then the 10, 15, 30. And here are the 5, 7, 20, 25. So the 10 and 15 are down there because the interaction time was shorter. So it's not just the question of interaction time between the plasma and the cells, but the liquid which got in contact with the plasma, and you created extra species in the liquid which get in contact with the cells.
Yeah, so if you would actually repeat such experiments on that way, let's say first with a continuous time, increasing the height, and you would get the function of that. And the other way is that with after this, knowing the height of the liquid, so actually figuring out the diffusion rate within the liquid and considering that time. And after that, just increasing the let's say the time of the treatment, the picture will be much more clear.
With the height of the liquid, the problem is that we also saw the same. So when we did those propylium iodine staining, we wanted to do in a larger plate because that was fitting better in the microscope. And then we just normalized to have the same liquid layer, so the height to be the same, but we didn't get the same effect. And the problem is that you have side diffusion also. So you treat just the 5 millimeter spot.
The geometry does matter again with the diffusion. That's clear.
So it's not only depth diffusion but side diffusion. So it's not the linear scaling with the height.
Yeah, and you have a needle, let's say treating device, which probably laterally has a not controlled way to actually get the result on the cells. So it's really just locally
It's
below
not
the needle. You could actually evaluate the cells in the same manner. So which is in a certain appropriate control distance from the treatment.
Yeah, but the problem is that your species will diffuse in the liquid before arriving to the
Yeah,
the
you don't have
cells.
to consider those cells because you do not control the diffusion over there.
Mhm.
Well, you're not controlling well the
it's an issue. What else we did is that we co-cultivated with the P. acnes, so we infected our culture, and what we saw that if we didn't treat this infected culture, then the wound didn't close, and if we treated, the wound closed. So we did not affect the cells negatively, but the P. acnes was really inactivated. Well, the problem with the P. acnes is that this is in the solution. So it gets in contact much easily with the plasma than the cells which are below the liquid. But this shows that it has some selectivity. Also other groups had this test that the plasma is selective on eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells. So it's it has a more radical effect on the prokaryotic cells. So that's why we can clean our wound, but not really keep it clean our wound, but not really kill our cells before we clean it up. So we can at lower powers clean the wound, but not affect negatively our cells.
I think that the skin surface is a different story, considering, for example, the liquid, because of course dependent on the humidity in the surface of the skin.
But
it's
when we have
actually,
a wound,
yeah, when you have in the surface.
because when we have the wound, then you have this wet,
Yes.
whatever. We don't really know what we have, but. So that was our trials to see if we really have some positive effect on the wound healings. So there are also other trials to apply the plasmas. First to treat the cancer cell, and here we have a discharge which well, the electrode and then the grounded electrode is the living tissue. So we will have a very small discharge on the surface, which is again not hot, but we have radicals there. And what they see is that this is the size of the cancer cell and the uncontrolled one, the untreated one. This one and the treated one is decreasing. The old theories were mostly to destroy these cells. But recently I heard a lecture which was more in correlation with what we found, that what they try is just to stress this cell and make them visible to the immune system. Because if I understood, the problem with the cancer cell is that our immune system doesn't see it. And that's why our immune system doesn't see as a bad cell. Is it so? And what they try to do is to
support one side.
So what they try to do is to make them visible for the immune system, so they stress them. So they claim that the plasma can be helpful. Of course you can destroy easily the cancer cells. It's not an issue to destroy. But you don't know if this will migrate mid-mile or not. So the new theory is that the plasma can help in making these cells visible for our immune system. So just give small stresses and that can help. I don't know. That's what I learned recently. Well, here the experiments really show that the tumor size is decreasing, but this, I'm not sure what is the real effect. The plasma can help in blood coagulation. So it's again, here is the electrode, the plasma, we have a discharge, the blood, we have a discharge between the blood and the electrode. And we can see that both the non-anticoagulated blood and the one which has coagulation added, when you treat, they can coagulate. So you have the clot formation. So I think this can help in the wounds. So if you cut, what you see that if it's not treated, it's still bleeding. If you treat it, it's coagulating faster. So you have the coagulation is much faster if you treat it with the plasma. And I think this is the last application what I'm showing you. This is whitening your teeth. And actually here it's not only the plasma which helps, but what they put is the H2O2 paste on your teeth, and then they treat with the plasma. And in fact it's the dissociation of this H2O2 to OH, I guess, and that's going to react with your teeth, which will make it much whiter. So it's like etching a bit, probably the surface of your teeth. And here they have some experiments how they make it with the plasma whiter, coffee and wine decolored. So this is more like a commercial use. So for the toxicity, what they did is treating the mice and following the weeks, the skin of the mice where it was treated. And so we have a treatment of a couple of seconds. Yeah, from seconds to 10 minutes of plasma, and following 4 weeks, and they see no negative effect on the animal skin. Well, probably you need much more tests to see also on the human trials, clinical trials, but I would also say that radically negative effects you would not have. Yes. So, as a conclusion, what I could say is that plasma can help in medicine. We have very complex mechanisms. We are still not sure in each application what are the most important effects. We have some ideas how the UV radiation, the electric field can help, or the species coming from the plasma, what are the effects of all these oxidative species, how they can help in the oxidative processes of the cells. But overall, we still need a lot of work to do at cell level, basic level, to understand exactly the processes. Although there are already clinical trials which can assure us that things are working, but we're still not sure what are the most important processes. And thank you for your attention.
What about biofilms?
Well, the biofilms, if you have these radicals which etch the surface, like the oxygen atoms, and also you have some ions which help, then you can really sterilize the biofilms also, because you are really sputtering away. So it's like cutting layer by layer, but it's a more finer cut. You sputter it. It's like the stacked bacteria. It's also you sputter the upper layer.
I spotted this business which came from University of St. Andrews with blue light.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Amazon, you can buy it. There are LEDs emitting at 450 nanometers. It's £300, and you can put it on your face, and it's against acne. It works.
Mm-hmm.
So if plasma produces that way need maybe the same mechanism?
Well, plasma can produce at any wavelength. It's just the question of which gas you use. But is that a laser?
No, there are LEDs.
Uh-huh.
So like a palm of LEDs, you put it on different faces.
Yeah, it can
It's
be
called
the same.
blue something.
Mm-hmm.
So small device,
Mm-hmm. But that's more absorption of light.
perhaps. They improve the effects on acne.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are many things which work, but we are not sure of the way it works, no?
Is it has any drying effect? So I mean,
Yes.
if you how fast it is? So for example, how long you would have to actually use
you
the
can treat
plasma
for minutes.
to let's say dry out such a well.
Well, if you have this 24 well, which is 1 centimeter diameter, you have 1 millimeter of layer, you can easily treat for minutes.
That's also so that there are with these experiments these are all important. So the diffusion strictly depends on the thickness. If you have any drying effect, your thickness
Will
lowering.
decrease. But
And unity actually affects how fast you dry out your
you
media.
need
So
minutes to
that's
dry
you
it
can't
out.
control well in such experiments unless you directly.
Because what we did it is when we treated. So when we treated, we tried to get rid of the environmental atmosphere. So we closed it with the glass plate. And on the glass plate you see when it starts evaporating. But when you treat for 30 seconds you still don't see anything. If you keep it running, then you start seeing that you see the vapor on the glass.
Yeah.
But
Does it mean that it heats also a little bit?
Well, you heat the upper layer. Well, you heat the top a bit.
So it depends on how
Is the accumulation
are all
somehow,
these
yeah.
effects.
Because this is like 40 degrees. But you close the atmosphere and then you keep it running, then it will start really heating up on that spot.
Or is it, was it a heating chamber or something like that when you kept your cells? I mean the plate?
Yeah, it was normally incubated.
So it was in the incubator you used or it treated the cells in the incubator?
No, we treat it outside and then we put it back. So basically we kept them 10-20 minutes outside. So you take out, you change the medium to PBS, then you treat,
Yeah, the temperature also not controlled in that case.
and let's see
So
in the lab it's
because
pretty
in
hot.
the cell culture container, the unit is 100%. So you make it, you take out, it drops immediately. So you can't control now the humidity and the temperature. Not controlling well.
Mhm. Well, we did what was available in the biological lab and the dermatology.
No, the effects actually appear, but,
Yeah.
but that's why how you have to take into account of those and you can actually explain.
Yeah, it really matters how long you will take it out, how long you keep it out, then also how long you keep it on the treated. So the problem is that it depends on everything. So it's pretty complex. If you want to deeply understand, you can spend years on it.
Can you also ionize the air discharge is 20% later instead of using this radio frequency.
Yeah, but this radio frequency, it's a power supply. What we use is the voltage. It's a voltage. It's just a voltage current.
Is that DC?
It's an RF.
Alright. What frequency?
1356. 13.56
Mega.
megahertz. Yeah.
What happens if you change?
You can get the same discharge. You can go down to kilohertz.
And you still obtain?
Yeah, but this is the commercial RF generator, which you are allowed to use and you don't get in trouble with all the other.
Yeah.
So this is the standard which you can use.
Without needing a license for the
Yeah.
frequency.
So this is the standard radio frequency generators. For direct current in atmospheric pressure, it's pretty difficult to get discharge. The easiest in kilohertz. So this is more like cheers. So you really need alternating current to get discharge in atmospheric pressure. At low pressure, it's not a problem. So those discharges which I showed you to put your hand to disinfect, those works on kilohertz. So high power and kilohertz, these are low power radio frequency.
If there are no further questions,